You're listening to the Tax Insights podcast, where the professionals at Hawkins Ash CPAs break down complex tax topics into bite-sized how-tos. Form 1099-K has been around for a while, but due to a recent law change, many more people and business owners will receive one and will need to report it on their 2022 tax returns. In this episode, Jeff Dvorachek, a tax partner, explains why you may receive Form 1099-K and what to do if you think yours may need a correction.
There's been a lot of talk about changes to the Form 1099s in general and how it's different for reporting in 2022. And as a result, you might be getting a 1099-K to report certain payments that you receive. And this is really going to affect those in the gig economy.
Yeah, we've talked about the gig economy before, but let's start off with what is Form 1099-K?
Yeah, like many businesses, if you accept credit cards or use a third-party service to transfer money personally, you may receive a 1099-K to remind you and also to let the IRS know how much you received. This amount in many cases needs to be reported on your personal tax return.
So who sends out Form 1099-K, and how do they know that it needs to actually be sent?
Yeah, these forms are normally sent out by vendors that you use to accept credit cards, but they are also sent by some of the payment apps, such as what we all know, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. And beginning in the 2022 year, a Form 1099-K is going to be sent out if the aggregate amount of payments received for goods and services is $600 or more during the calendar year.
So why has this not been a big deal in the past? Why now?
Because, prior to 2022, the thresholds for filing this form were much higher. So prior to this year, the limits were $20,000 in payments received or 200 transactions. So not many individuals met these limits.
So will this Form 1099-K include all payments? I mean, I know a lot of people who just transfer money back and forth, but they're not really selling anything.
That's a good question. And the way it's supposed to work, and I say supposed to work, is that only payments received for goods and services will be included on that Form 1099-K. Any personal transfers of funds between people should not be included. Now, with this being the first year, I'm sure there's going to be some errors.
Absolutely. So, okay, how is someone going to fix those errors?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Because if you look at the IRS website, the IRS wants you to contact those third parties, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, and have them reissue the form to correct the error. But I can see these large third-party services not doing it, as it's going to be an administrative headache for them. So I think you're going to need to work with your tax preparer to come up with a plan to make sure that you're reporting this income, even if it's not taxable to you.
So, all right, Form 1099-K, these amounts now have to be reported on a tax return?
Yeah, that's right. So, and it may not be easy in some cases, because if you think of what that 1099-K represents, it's for goods and services. So this income could show up on a number of different places on your return. It could go on a Schedule C if you have business income. It could go on a rental schedule if a tenant paid you rent. It could go on a Schedule D if you sold a personal item at a gain. And when you sell personal items at a gain, you actually have to report that. It may not go anywhere if you sell a personal item at a loss. Just like we talked about, you have to include gains on your return, but you don't get to deduct personal losses. So what the IRS says is if you have a loss on a sale of a personal item, you really don't need to report that on your return. But let's say that you don't report that loss. Then the Form 1099-K is going to be higher than what you report on your return, and it no longer matches the IRS records. And in some cases, the IRS is going to send you a notice saying, hey, what's the difference? So as you can see, Terry, there's just a ton of moving parts when it comes to this. And I think it's going to be messy for this first year for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be messy for a long time, my opinion. But that's why I'm not the expert. You are. How do listeners connect with the team over at Hawkins Ash?
I would go to our website, which is hawkinsash.cpa.
Jeff, thank you for your time.
This has been Tax Insights, presented by Hawkins Ash CPAs. Learn more online at hawkinsashcpas.com. Hawkins Ash CPAs. Part of your business, part of your life.